comprehensive plan, we have hired an assistant manager, we have hired an FCO. So when we're calling out specific positions, there's the chance that that could change in, you know, a 6-month or a 3-month period, which it did. So now that part of the comprehensive plan is almost irrelevant now.
We call it complete. That's what we call it. When you guys hired Jack, we said we just cross it off our list. Something that we had recommended.
So maybe, and just a suggestion, take it for what it's worth, but maybe we take out those specific requirements and leave the org chart as a whole in there. Instead of
You mean
specifically.
the specific recommendations at the end?
Where you specifically discuss the assistant manager and the fire, and I don't know what page it's on, I'll try to find it.
44 to 45.
Yeah. Where you specifically call out specific positions, don't call out specific positions, but call out more general, like an overview. Because to me, that's what a comprehensive plan is.
So in other words, something more generic to say that the township should look at increasing professional staffing in order to provide more comprehensive services to its residents rather than getting into the specifics of what positions we should be looking at.
Exactly. And so then you're more specific, it's more general, it's more broad, then it leaves it up to the supervisors and the staff to figure out, is that a assistant manager, is that a marketing person, is it an IT person, what are the actual needs of the township at that time?
Are you, just for clarification purposes, saying then we should have a bulleted list essentially saying, hey, here are the types of services that this role may provide, and the township would then decide, hey, that looks like an assistant manager, that looks like this or that, or just the generic statement that Jason had said?
Yeah, just like more like a generic statement. Like you heard from the community that that there needs to be more services provided. If there are specific services that maybe the community is requesting be provided, whether it be fire departments or FCOs or assistant manager, like you can maybe list those, but more general overview of what it is and not so detailed into like specific staffing needs. If that makes sense.
Remove the org charts.
I'm one board member, so I'm not saying like you need to do that right now, go change it. I'm just saying that's my opinion in reading through this. I think you guys did a great job overall, but to me that was something that kind of stood out.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page so that if there is that modification made, we're doing what is requested.
Yeah, no, I get that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that, you know, we were very proud when we checked something off our list when you hired the fire code enforcement officer. We were very proud of that. So I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And real quick to Tony's point, I don't think it'd be that hard to just add word and recruitment and retention, essentially, and just add literally a sentence in there saying this could also include the hiring of paid firefighters beyond just volunteer. It's a simple out of a sentence. And now your thought and your idea, which might be the direction we go, nobody knows, that could be added to that, and it would cover your concern. Fair?
Yep.
Very good. Go ahead. We're going to open this up for public comment if your presentation is completed. So if anybody else has public comment, I'll ask you guys to take
Does anybody
it.
another board member have a question before we sit down?
Do you have a question or?
Okay.
Okay. State your name and address for the record.
Hi, Tim Markovich, 1009 Mayfair Drive. First and foremost, thank you, committee. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for picking up the slack. I apologize because I was supposed to be on the committee due to my son being very active with hockey. I wasn't able to make it. So I do thank you. One of the questions I have is that, and it is specifically to the land map future use. As I looked at the current zoning, and again, this is a guideline for everybody. I look at the current zoning, there is probably about 5 or 6 industrial/light industrial properties in the current map. I'm trying to wrap my head around, and I'm looking at your map for future use. What was the determination, or how was the determination made that you're going to take a current industrial/light industrial property and propose it to be residential. Because as a property owner of light industrial property, I'm very concerned with that, obviously, and I could list the many reasons why, especially since the property that I own has been over half a century zoned light industrial, and it's being used as light industrial currently now. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around how that determination was made from going, picking 3 or 4 different properties specifically on the current and changing it for future residential.
So the biggest thing that we did was try to update the map. First, we tried to update it to where we felt it was currently. So areas that the last map that we were looking at that had been built out more with bigger neighborhoods, we were changing the zoning from R1 to R2, or, so that's what we did first. After that, we really went through and try to decide where we felt in the township would be the best places for commercial development, to bring business into the community, with the turnpike coming in, how to turn the exits off the turnpike into possible, little storefronts for people to get off the turnpike and come shop at. That's really how the basis of everything happened. And the only other thing that I would say is that then we looked at the property surrounding it so that there wouldn't be specifically something spot zone.
So to that point, you're looking at, like, you bring up the turnpike, and it would be a suggestion, maybe that's currently residential now, and you want to change it to, let's just say, mixed use or something like that. What's concerning about this is the fact that something that is already industrial / light industrial, which can bring business into the township, and you're making it, or you're suggesting, the committee's suggesting that it now go from that to residential. That having houses compared to businesses does not bring in tax money to this township, and everybody up there can attest to it. It costs money to have houses versus businesses.
I'm not sure exactly where your property is.
623 980 Road. And it's actually right next to the property that Mark West owned. Mark West owns it now. We all understand how they went through the whole compressor station thing. It's zoned light industrial. It's been light industrial for 50 plus years. And you're recommending that property now, which my property borders it, to be residential. I personally, I'm not a lawyer. I personally don't believe that you have the legal right to do that based on the fact that they.
Well, yeah, we're not doing anything.
Yeah. Well,
It's just a
you're
recommendation.
suggesting.
But, like, and I know specifically which piece of property you're talking about.
Right.
In that specific case, the thought was all surrounding property around it was residential. I mean, we did not go through every single person in this township's property and say,
Right.
this piece, that piece, this piece, that piece. We did a overview of, this is, the most important thing is to have everything be, for the most part, what's the word I'm looking for here?
And I get it, and I applaud it. I just don't understand why the recommendation of future land, you would change something that's currently
And we're not
taxed.
changing.
Well, you're suggesting a change. This
I-
is a suggestion.
And I think part of the process, one of the steps that we went through, and actually, that Michelle was missed, was one of the other things we looked at was cases of existing spot zone, cases that we looked at the overall map and said, are there any properties in the current zoning map, and not properties, is there any zoning within the map that just jumps out at us and says, hold on, and to your particular point, I think you're looking at a case, it's, I think, 80, it's 71
More or less.
acres. 71 acres, I think their property is, and then you have,
7, about 8.
okay. And that's it, that light industrial is fully encompassed within those two
Right. So,
properties.
but
So you're talking about roughly 80 acres of light industrial
Correct.
that is surrounded by hundreds, perhaps, probably well over 1,000 acres of residential. And so that was something that, when you look at it on the map, on a map the whole time, just jumps out at you and says, whoa. That, now, we all understand the history there and why that property was zoned industrial to begin with.
And I'm not referring.
Can I ask you why it was zoned?
What?
Industrial?
When zoning was,
He owned it before there was zoning in Cecil, and it was a dog pile from the coal mine. And that's why it was industrial.
correct. It was the use of the property at the time when zoning was, when the state forced zoning upon the township. So, but the purpose of the plan, again, looking at our past and looking at where we want to go in the future. It's important to know those things. Why are things the way they are now? But also, where are we going in the future? And one of the things we wanted to eliminate was spot zoning. Or spot zoning goes both directions. You have a residential property stuck in the middle of commercial industrial properties. And then you also have industrial properties that kind of stuck in the middle of a large residential area. Those are things that are not.
If you look at it that way, if you go to Black Box, it's surrounded by residential property. All the industrial buildings over there are surrounded by residential property. I mean, somebody's paid taxes for all these years on industrial property. You just can't take a paintbrush and wipe it away. But I think what these people need to know is, Dan, if I'm right, the owner would have to apply to change the zoning.
The township zoning can happen two ways. Amendments can.
Dan, if you want to state your name for.
Dan Dyser, township engineer. Zoning can happen two ways. John can correct me if John was here. It can come through an amendment that is presented by the property owner, or the supervisors have the legislative power to change zoning also. So that comes either way, correct, John? Those are the only two ways it can change. And for you guys, it's a legislative decision. You don't have to accept zoning. You don't have to. If you don't rezone somebody's property, if they request it, there's no appeal to that. It's completely a legislative decision.
Right,
Sure.
Also to clarify, I know that the term spot zoning has been used several times, and spot zoning would be illegal. It would be if the township had said, hey, we're going to just put this one property or these two properties.
But it's not spot zoning.
I know, it's not, that's what I'm saying. It is not spot zoning. However, even if the township went through a process to say, hey, here's the comprehensive plan proposed future land use map, here's where we think the zoning map can go, if they do say, hey, we're changing the zoning of this property, nothing that you have on that property would have to be removed. It would be a non-conforming use because it was existing.
Yeah, very well versed.
So I just want to make sure everybody understands that as well. Is
I
that?
think we also have to, be a little bit careful though saying whether or not something is spot zoning. I can't say that, and truthfully, you can't say that either. I think that's for a court or an engineer to figure out. So I think we just have to walk that line a little bit where we're saying, like, where you're saying it's definitely not spot zoning, truthfully, like, you don't know that, I don't know that. It would be for the courts and an engineer to figure out. So let's, again, get back to the whole comprehensive plan and
That's just what we were trying to prevent.
what's spot zoning, right?
was Prevent, like with the changing it to residential was just us trying to prevent that issue from coming up in
Right.
court.
I just am hesitant for us to say yes it is or no it isn't because truthfully,
Right.
we don't know for sure.